Good evening, everybody, and you're very welcome back to Apex Racing TV and to the Apex Racing League Prototype Championship. We are rounding out the season, ladies and gentlemen. We've had a great championship so far, but unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. We are here to crown 4 new champions tonight here at the wonderful Sebring International Raceway. This is iconic for endurance racing. We all know Sunset Bend, that last corner that sweeps round and really shows the downforce of these cars. And great circuit, very narrow, very tight and twisty, but every driver is in some way is a fan of Sebring. But we're here tonight, of course, to round out the championship in style. My name is Jack Canan, Dane Baird alongside me, Marco Barbonero, doing the cameras as per usual. Dane, it's the end of a great championship, and we have some champions to crown. It's pretty close across the board, and looking forward to crowning these guys.
Yeah, absolutely, and championship standings, they're on the screen now for LMP1 Pro and Alex Salmon. He's still leading up there in the top. Around about 12 points is the gap between himself and Lewis Woods, and then only 6 back to Leonard Rott in third. Those top 3 going for the P1 Pro Championship. I think Hugo Valentin could mathematically still get it, but I don't think it's very likely. And P1AM very close as well. Loki Brown just 11 points behind Mateus Drozda at the top, and Daniel Civisalva about 14 back from there. So pretty close in the LMP1, both LMP1 championships up at the front. So we're sure to see some good racing out there today in LMP1, and then of course LMP2 is probably one of the closest championships. Maybe not for first and second in P2 Pro, but after that, there's 2 points and then 3 points for second, third, and fourth.
Yeah, it's very, very close indeed. So Viderka has got a great gap, as does Tim Perry at the head of the LMP2 AM field as well. So he's got, actually, no, it's actually only 11 points between himself and Kevin Kilman. So it's very, very even gaps across P1 Pro, P1 AM, and P2 AM. Surprisingly enough, P1 Pro has the biggest gap at the top of the standings, but it's basically between Tim Perry and Kevin Kittleman for that one, and we'll see who's going to take this championship. Of course, all points unofficial until we get all the stewards' inquiries in and done as well, so we have to wait for that one. Here's your 2 qualifying bands for today, and these both in the LMP2 class. Matteo Graziano in P2 Pro and Alexandra Graville in LMP2 AM. They're the only 2 guys with qualifying bans. No pit lane starts this time. It was just the qualifying bans, and they will line up at the back of the order. As now we watch David Ward coming through Sunset. This is a great corner in this one. It's very difficult to get right. You've got to be brave through there. And certainly, Dane, plenty of these drivers in the LMP2 field are going to be using this race as kind of a practice run for the 12 hours of Sebring next week.
Yeah, definitely. Sebring 12 hours, I believe, is in the real world this weekend, but next weekend, of course, in iRacing, and LMP1s, they're not in it, but the LMP2s are for sure. So they'll definitely be using this as some practice. I believe IMSA and the European Sprint Series are both going to Sebring this week and next week, respectively. So it's a lot of practice for the LMP2 drivers.
Sorry, we just had Marco in our ears telling us how dare we forget the TCR car, who's also going to be here at Sebring. So at the moment, actually, it's one of the P1 AMs at the top of the standings, Loki Brown, who's in the hunt for the title in that one, of course, as well. But he is currently the fastest man by just 0.02 of a second over Alex Salmon in P1 in the P1 Pro category. Leonard Rart second at the moment. On board with Ishmael Yakubu now as he comes through sector number 2, this winding section before we head on to the back straight. And it is worth pointing out as well, we'll be ending this one in the darker conditions, of course. So looking forward to seeing these cars at night around Sebring, of course. But Ishmael Yakubu, he's coming through Sunset right now, flings it round, and you got to as I mentioned, incredibly, it's very bumpy through there as well. So very hard to get it right as he comes across the start-finish line to go. I'm assuming up the order it should be a faster time, and it is. It's the fastest time, 35.5 for Ishmael Yakubu. Goes to the pole in P1 Pro, just ahead of Loki Brown at the head of the P1 AM category. But in P2 Pro, Leonard Rock goes to the top right now. P2 Pro goes, that's 1.3 seconds faster than anybody. Lennart Raarts really flinging it around. He's got an outside chance, really, of trying to secure this championship, but that is an epic lap from Lennart Raarts, 34-1 in the Porsche. P2 Pro, we're looking at Jakub Viderka by just 2 thousandths of a second over Matteo Calistani and Maciej Mlinek in P3, just 700ths back. And there's Tim Perry. He is, of course, leading the P2 AM Championship. He's got a decent gap of 11 points over his rival Kevin Kittleman, but he's currently in the middle of that field as well. But Jakub Viderka, we should give a shout out to Jakub Viderka and Maciej Mlinek, of course. We had the European Digital Motorsports Championship not too long ago. They represented Poland in that championship, did an excellent job, and of course driving the LMP2 cars, did an excellent drive for Poland. I believe they came third, I think, in the Cup of Nations, so well done to those guys sharing a car. But now, of course, they're rivals once again on track. 700 just between them, but 2 thousandths of a second separates pole there for Jakub Viderka versus Matteo Calistani. But qualifying very close as usual. But I'm amazed at that lap from Lennart Raarts. That's 1.3 seconds around Sebring. That's a big chunk of time.
Yeah, it definitely does seem to favour the Porsche from what we've seen so far. You can see the MP1 AM as well. Figuccia, the only Audi in the AM category, and Alex Salmon, he goes third, but 1.4 seconds off the pace. So it just seems like the Porsche, at least over a 1 lap pace, has the advantage. Maybe that's due to the boost, the hybrid boost, of course. Very different systems in each of the cars, but I don't remember the Porsche being that much quicker, at least not over a race distance from when I used to drive the LMP1s. Of course, things have changed since then, but I would be very surprised if that's going to carry over to the race. Almost scraping the wall was Viderka on the way through Big Bend there.
Yeah, really pushing the limits right there. He went a little bit faster in that one. I've just had a correction from the chat. Thank you very much. Poland was second in the Cup of Nations, actually. So well done to those guys. Yeah, even better. So it was Germany who won that, by the way, if you're wondering. So now we look at Shane Dunn, who's on the lap right now. Most drivers have finished their timed laps by the looks of it. We're just looking at Ryan Eppringer now on board, down the back straight, heading towards sunset, into the sunset, as he comes down the back straight. And we'll see now how he negotiates this last corner. Flings it in. You can't even really see where you're going in Sunset Bend. It's that you can't see where the corner is going to go. Very bumpy as well. You can see the bumps coming over there, over the top of Sunset and across the line. For him, does he manage to improve? He did improve his time, didn't manage to get anywhere up the order. But you can see Hugo Valentin now pops to 4th in class. But it is provisionally now Lennart Raarts who's going to be on pole, and I think he might actually be able to go even quicker. Look at Sunset bouncing around on the top of the bumps here through the last corner, comes to the line right now. Can he go even faster than he had managed before? The answer is yes, by a 10th. 1.4 seconds faster than Ishmael Yakubu. Alex Salmon is third. Lewis Woods needs the result today. Does he go faster than he managed before? Yes, set 2 seconds and gets himself on the front row of the grid ahead of Alex Salmon. If you want a chance at the title, of course, he's got to finish in front of Alex, and we'll see how he manages to do that. But Tim Perry, he's done everything he needs to do. He's on pole in P2, but Kevin Kittleman on the second row of the grid, just behind him as well. And Jakub Viderka, he's on pole for the P2 Pro, and Mateusz Drozda is in P1 AM right there. So all the championship leaders, apart from Lennart Raarts, of course, are on pole in their respective classes. But that is obviously not all said and done. RAC Mantis comes across the line to see if he can improve his time. Doesn't look like he's managed to do that. But we have, of course, the championships to crown right now. But Lennart Raarts, stunning effort from him, 1.2 seconds faster than Lewis Woods and Ishmael Yakubu. All those guys very close together. But that Porsche just seems to be really, really good. Lennart Raarts got it hooked up somehow. Mateusz draws the 400s in front of Loki Brown. Those are the championship fights. Really looking forward to this one now. An hour of racing coming up for you today, and the championship to round up, heading into well, heading into the end of the season, of course. But here is the grid for the final race of the season. It's Leonard Rart on pole in P1 Pro, and Lewis Woods will line up in second spot for that one. And then behind him, of course, will be Ishmael Yakubu and Alex Salmon in fourth place. And then Mateusz Drozda, he's on pole for P1AM, and Loki Brown next to him, fighting for the championship there. Hugo Valentin, he will be fifth in class, of course. Ares Mantis lining up on the second row of P1AM. Daniel Sivi Zabo and Flavio Figuccio round out that one. Then your pole position for the P2 Pros, Jakob Viderka on pole for that one. And Matteo Calistani with Maciej Mlinek and Zeb Tonneson with Krzysztof Skorupski and Mark Sweethoff and Arkadiusz Neumann and Daniel Bucher lining up on the fourth row of the grid. Then further down, of course, then we have James Holman and pole for P2AM, your championship leader, Tim Perry. Luke Pennington, of course, he will start at the back of the P2 Pro field. Jackson Bell second in class, Kevin Kittleman third, Shane Dunn fourth, Alex Moore fifth, Charles Collignon and sixth, and Craig Jones down further through there. And of course, we had the guys with qualifying bans as well, who will be lining up further down the order. You can see Matteo Graziano being one of those, so he will be lining up at the back of the order as well. But you can see Jas Baumeister, David Ward, Michael Seal, Marcel Leclerc, Nathan Healy, Brian Cavito, Jason Marical, Corey Edwards, and Ryan Eppingham. Not setting times. Well, we did see Eppingham out on track, but it looks like he just invalidated it, got a 1x on his laps in this one. But this is going to be fun. The championships are basically wide open across the board. We're not really sure who's going to take it when we get to the flag, and we get a full pace lap here by the looks of it around Sebring, which means we get to look at the pace truck in all its glory, leading this field around a full lap.
You can tell Marco Barbanera set up the session. That was the agreement between Marco Barbanera and Sam Fitzpatrick. If Marco has to book the sessions for the league races, then we will get the pace truck instead of the regular pace car. But just interesting to note about qualifying, and it's been pointed out, the Porsche does actually regen more boost for a one-lap stint because it can regen on straights. The Audi can't do that. The Audi only regenerates under braking, and of course at Sebring there aren't too many fairly heavy braking zones where they can do a lot of regen, but there are quite a few longer straight sections for the Porsche to regen that boost. And you can see the LMP2 field now starting to get underway. They'll be led by Viderka, leaving about a 5 and a bit second gap on the relative at least, but I think iRacing's relative system not very accurate, and it's actually more of a 20-second gap that they've left the LMP2s at the moment.
Yep, so on board with Leonard Rart as we stare at the back of the pace truck. You'd also know Marco's on cameras, wouldn't you? Staring at the pace truck with the onboards right now. Well, you can see we always comment on it, the size of the pace truck compared to these LMP cars. These are so low to the ground compared to this. And well, there's your breakdown of the class as well. Porsche on pole, then Audi, and then of course Porsche's taking up the most of the P1AM field. Drozda versus Brown for the title, of course. It's Woods versus Salmon for the title in P1 Pro. Then of course it's Viderka with a decent lead in P2 Pro. So we're pretty sure if he gets that car across the line, he's pretty much going to secure it. But it's Tim Perry versus Kevin Kittleman for P2AM. That we'll be keeping our eyes on in that one. That's going to be an interesting battle. Seems like Tim Perry has the pace today, but we'll wait and see if Kevin can get himself up the order, maybe take a second victory. We'll wait and see in due course, but this is going to be an interesting race for sure. An hour racing. Pit stops, of course, are in force for this one for fuel. We're about to get underway, of course, in the dying light conditions as well. We'll get these cars finishing across the line in the dark, so looking forward to seeing that as well. But we'll keep our eyes peeled for these championship battles all the way through, of course. Woods versus Salmon in P1 Pro, and Brown versus Drozda in P1AM, of course. Let's not forget about that as well. 12 points at the front of P1 Pro, and 11 points separate the P1AM field as well as the P2AM field as well. 11 points in that one too. But the pace truck leads them down the back straight for the final time. And we will get these guys racing for the last time in the ARL Prototypes Series Championship. Been a great one. Restart zone, by the way, is between the tires at the end of the pit wall and the start-finish straight. So we won't be getting these guys launching it through sunset. Of course, we don't want that. So we will get these cars around and starting the lap, of course. But basically, if Alex Salmon manages to get that car across the line, he will be crowned the champion. But of course, all waiting for stewards' inquiries. Here we go then for the final round of the ARL Prototypes Championship. Here we go. Lennart Rart will take the green flag for the P1 field, and he goes now and across the start finish line. Green flag in the air for the final round of the season. Lennart Rart leads them away. Woods into second, Salmon third. Drozda trying to throw one up the inside, but Loki Brown takes the lead in P1am as they come through turn number one. A little bit of sideways action going through there as they side the way through with Lennart Rart. Good start from him. Woods to second, Salmon into third. Loki Brown fighting away. iRacing Mantis gets put on the curb there as he fights for position in his class. Around the outside of Hugo Valentini gets on the boost nice and early. Now LMP2 field already rubbing down the straight into turn one. That was incredibly close between Kalistani and Skorupski, possibly Skorupski, and again more contact. Oh, big one in the background into the barrier. Huge accident. That was Sweethoff and Matchem Linek, and another one that gets collected in the middle of that one. And now he's going to have to slam on the brakes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars involved in this. One ends up on its roof, and that is a big accident at the start of this one. The PR are going to keep getting contact, guys, as they collect each other again coming through there. And that was a number. That was a lot of the P2 field caught up in that one. But it looks like the P2ams have survived. Tim Perry still leads that one, and they've remained in their respective positions. But Lennart Rart leads his class. Loki Brown at the head of the P1am field after lap 1. P2 Pro still Jakob Viderka, and P2am is Tim Perry. But a little bit messy there, Dane, at the start, with guys just not seeming to get on the brakes.
Yeah, pretty tricky one there. A couple of cars bouncing up and back into the racing line, of course. Definitely not what you want, especially not on the exit of the first corner where everyone's still really bunched up. But then afterwards, a couple of sloppy rejoins, really. Yeah, definitely not doing the drivers any favours at all. But out in front, and around about 2 seconds of a gap that he's got there. And Viderka's got just under a second. There's a couple LMP1s going wide through turn one for the second time. I think that was Brown and Drozda going a bit wide, and now there's a lunge up the inside there. Kalistani's just been actually trying to go around the outside. All sorts of sideways through sunset. The bumps unsettling the car. Yamantis is into the pits. But is Kalistani going to try and go all the way around the outside? No, he's not. He's going to back off, which is probably the smart move.
Yeah, so you can see that, but they're all running wide through turn one. That was Tim Perry. Holman was probably following his line. There goes Kittleman up the inside of Holman as well. He's trying to chase down Tim Perry. Of course, he's in the fight for the title, so he needs to get past here if he possibly can. Holman is, of course, in the pro class, so you can see Kittleman now has just made the move on Jackson Bell for second in class there. So they're making their way through the order now. Jackson Bell coming back at him actually on the inside line into the breakers off of the hairpin here. Does he get it stopped and done? He does indeed. Gets up the inside. Nothing really that Kittleman could do about that, and he falls back down to third place. But they're all running wide in that first corner. Of course, the track temperature is lower, and you can see now this is Zeb Toynison and Kalistani still going out. Skorupski fancies a bit of the action as well as they head through the middle sector down towards the back straights. It's getting really feisty early on in this hour-long race, but tires will be cold and lower track temperature, of course, as well. They're all running wide in turn one, just misjudging the entry into that first corner into Big Bend. But Zeb Toynison at the head of this train. Jakob Viderka 1.8 seconds clear right now. But Kalistani trying his best to get through here as there's Kittleman and Jackson Bell still fighting for position here. Kittleman's got to get past and try and get after Tim Perry here, because if Tim Perry finishes in front of him, that is the championship done and dusted for him. So he's got to try and get at least get up in front of Tim Perry and see what happens if that does occur. But here comes Kittleman in the slipstream into Sunset Bend, not able to get anything done, but still very close across the field here. But those bumps are just horrendous in these cars. Kittelman now in the slipstream down towards Big Ben, towards turn 1, goes for the inside line. Does he try and go for it on the inside? Yes, he does. Side by side they go into the first corner, but it is going to be Aguirre that goes in front of him around there, and he has to fall behind it, and Aguirre loses it in front of him. Round he goes, and Kittelman just says, thank you very much, I'll have that position back, and he manages to rejoin, thankfully. But a big battle at the head of the P1 Amfield, Dane, right here. Drozda, Brown and Figuccio all together on track.
Yeah, and it seems as though something's happened to two of our LMP1 Pro drivers of Hugo Valentin and Ismail Yakubu. They did take the start, they were in the starting grid, but something must have happened to them whilst we were watching the LMP2s have their massive incident at the start of the race. But Figuccio just dropping back slightly from Drozda and Brown. There's a fair amount of slipstream from these cars, but trying to see drivers sending up the inside into turn number 1, it is not the best overtaking spot, because it's such a wide, long corner that you can carry so much speed through that you can just hold it around the outside quite easily. So we see what happened to Hugo Valentin.
Yeah, unfortunately I can't see it because my laptop's a potato, so I won't be able to see what's happened. But I have seen on the chat there, they have both completely disconnected and left entirely. So there was obviously something that occurred there that we didn't see while we were watching that. And yeah, I've just had a look at it there, and it was Hugo Valentin just went straight into the back of Humantis in the braking zone. A bit of a strange one. Now, was that a lockup? I assume it was, but see ending up going straight into the back of Aris Amanda, so it was a completely unrelated incident by the looks of it, separate ones for Valentin and for Yakubu. So I'm not sure that, but Yakubu ended up perched on top of the barrier and getting stuck. Now that's not where that car should be, but he's now unfortunately had to tow back to pit lane and take the embarrassing route home, unfortunately, for Ismail Yakubu. But we've lost both of them. Completely unrelated, but Valentin, unfortunately, going into the back of Humantis. That is why he ended up back in pit lane. But now the P1's already catching up to the P2s.
Yeah, and that was a massive lockup from Ismail Yakubu that we saw in the replay a few moments ago. Just completely locking the brakes. Maybe hitting a bump in the wrong way or something that triggered that massive lockup. Once these LMP1 cars start locking up, by the way, it is pretty much impossible to get the brakes unlocked again because of the regen systems in them. You've almost got to push the throttle down a bit to actually get the wheels to rotate a little bit. And that's what we just saw there. We just straight on into the barrier, and yeah, had to take the tow because he got stuck on top of it, which we don't see very often.
As we go now to the head of the field.
I'm trying around the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, not a great position, but Lucky Brown still leading this one, but these guys still nose to tail here, Figuccio, Drozda and Brown. And the Audi now just trying to keep up with the two Porsches at the head of this field right now, and doing a good job is Flavio Figuccio at the moment. Daniel Civizabo is nowhere near these guys, 5.1, about 4 seconds back from these guys, which is obviously not great for him, but he'll be hoping that something happens in front, that he can get himself back up to this fight. But you can see Leonard Rars still at the head of the field there in P1 Pro, Lucky Brown leading P1 Am, Viderka at the head of P2 Pro, and P2 Am is still Tim Perry. So the only place we've had a change is in P2 Am as around this is a great battle now. Baumeister and Maracal side by side through turn 1, now up towards turn 2. Maracal trying to go on the inside of Baumeister. Nice battle here. It's going to get very narrow here. They're still going to go side by side into the left-hander. Maracal have the inside for that, and a nice little scrap there. Very fair racing between Maracal and Baumeister there, but Baumeister now, he should come back at him into the braking zone for the hairpin. But now look at this battle. This is getting interesting now between Brown and Drozda and Figuccio, now catching some lap traffic at the back of the P2 Am field. They've got a little bit of clean air now up to these guys. Maracal and Baumeister still going at it here for this position.
And look at the background, and at Rats, LMP1's definitely catching up to the majority of the lap traffic in terms of LMP2s, and they're going to end up right in the middle of this battle between these two.
Certainly are. So Rart is Rart is going to have to negotiate that as best as he can. Of course, that's key to this championship, is trying to get through the traffic as best you can. There he goes, past 1 and past 2. And Leonard Rart gets himself in front of, that'll be, of course, the P6 and P2. They've still got to catch up to a few of the pros yet. But this is the 3-car train for the lead in P1 of course, and your 2 championship leaders together on the track. Brown versus Drozda is your championship fight, of course. And the gap between those guys is just 11 points, but Drozda still firmly in position for the title at the moment. He needs something drastic to happen for him to lose this one. Just got to keep it consistent and basically stay on the rear bumper of Lucky Brown as best he can. Even if he falls behind Figuccio, not the end of the world. Lots of time left in this race as we head across the start-finish line. Once again, 10 minutes gone in this 1 hour-long race, and these guys still absolutely together as they come through Big Bend for the 7th time of asking. They're also going to catch up to this traffic very shortly. You can see the biggest movers throughout the field. Basically, it's been very static at the head of the field right here. Verderke, of course, holding on to pole position. You get the biggest movers, of course, would be the guys who started down the back of the P2 field. There, let's see, Marcel Leclerc, he's up 5 positions. Marechal, he's up 6 positions. But everyone here has basically remained exactly where they are, maybe getting 1 or 2 maximum. But you see Marcel Leclerc here, he's battling just with some pro cars here as David Ward goes up the inside of him, and he's not much he can do about that, but he's not fighting with him for position, so no points. Oh dear, big one. That's Aguirre and Bucher coming together, and that's in a very bad place right on the exit of the corner, and they're parked in the middle of the road. Somehow nobody else has collected them. And oh dear, guys, you got to take it easy around there. That was actually the battle of the P at 1 field, making it past there. But they're parked right in the centre of the road, and they eventually tow back to pit lane. But that was a bit sketchy. Very lucky nobody else collected them there, Dane. Let's have a look at it again.
Yeah, what actually happened here? This seems like a very odd incident. A 242, Bruno Guerre, just loops it on the sand on the outside, and that is an awful place to be, and then gets launched and stuck on top of, it seemed, for a minute. The car that slammed into, I'm not entirely sure who that was, but you can see cars going either side. This is awful. Luckily that LMP1 had some 4-wheel drive, otherwise it might have been a very different story when it went all over the sand on the outside there. Oh dear.
Yeah, Drozda to the lead right now, so he's taking full advantage of the traffic right here. Brown slots in behind right now, but they were very lucky to avoid that incident there. These guys battling for position, but Drozda now leads. Brown in second. Figuccio still hands on to third right now. Figuccio's going to go for it though. Having a look on the inside as Brown tried to get past the traffic, but he can't quite get through. But that is now, of course, championship leader back into the lead, and the gap at the head of the P1 at a pro field is starting to come down as well. Leonard Rart loses position as the cones go flying there with the P2s collecting them through there. So they've murdered some cones again as Leclerc goes up the inside of Marechal right there as that's Marechal making the position on Leclerc, sorry, as they go side by side around the left-hander. Marechal should slot in front of Leclerc, has the inside for the next corner, but Marechal goes around the outside, gives him space, and Marechal moves into that 5th position and gets a nice overtake done on him there. But gap starting to come down now. Tim Perry is very comfortably in the lead of the P2 field right now. He's got 4 seconds back to Jackson Bell. Leonard Rart, gap coming down to 1.4 seconds. And Figuccio now, he's got past, but they're battling for position there. Brown and Figuccio, they're swapping places as they came through, but it seems like Brown has managed to hang on to that, as you can see now, with the P1s getting past for position there. That's one of the P1 getting through. But gaps starting to get round as Maracal's going to loop it in sunset. Round he goes, holds on to the brakes, and luckily he's off the racing line there, but gets back going again. But so unfortunate, again, the bumps unsettling those cars.
Yep, definitely, and you can see now on the bottom right hand side of the screen the gap between Lewis Woods and Leonard Rart at the front of the field. The overall lead of the race, the gap has come down drastically over the last few laps. It's now just about a second. It was 3 seconds a few laps ago, I believe. So Leonard Rart not having the best last few laps, and Woods managing to close up that gap. Salmon has as well. but he is around about 2.7 seconds back at this stage. But yeah, Lennart Rart starting to feel the pressure from Woods behind.
Absolutely, Lewis Woods, he needs every single point he can get over Alex Salmon, and he needs something to happen to Alex Salmon as well for him to try and steal this championship. But you can see now, I think that's Michael Seal getting back underway. Actually, he's going quite slow down the straight there as Ryan Epperingham is going to get past him. So obviously, he's had a bit of an excursion, Michael Seal, but seems to have escaped damage at the very least.
Oh.
And
how did they not make contact there?
No idea, but stranger things have certainly happened. We remember Blanchimont last at Spa with two making contact around the outside. Stranger things have certainly happened. These guys have got some skill behind the wheel, certainly. But Michael Seal survives to fight another day. But Lucky Brown now, he's losing touch with Drozda, has just decided to check out. 2.2 seconds now to the lead, and Lucky Brown is under some pressure from Flavio Faguccio in third place, just behind him. So this is now starting to come undone for Lucky Brown just a little bit. Still loads of time left in this race for Lucky Brown to try and put up a late title charge, but it's getting less and less likely for him now, as this is Charles Collingdon and Ryan Epperingham fighting it out for 10th in class in P2 AM. See them just trying to get on the power through Sunset. Not a lot you could do through there with the bumps through there. Down towards turn 1 they come. You'll see now it's like threading the needle through turn 1 right now. There's basically one line through there. If you get it wrong, you're going to end up out on the gravel, the bumps as well. Going to really unsettle the car. And then this narrow, twisty section. Epperingham hops the curbs. Very easy to lose the rear end through here. Get a little run down to the hairpin now. Up on the curb there from Collingdon. You got to be careful doing that. Of course, it can very easy to loop it around if you do that a little bit wrong. Then down to the hairpin, of course. But very little in overtaking opportunity available to the drivers here. So Collingdon's going to have to be a little bit patient if he wants to try and get past here. But here's Lennart Rart. He's now managed to open the gap out to a 1.5 seconds. They've got clean track now. That's the key for Lennart Rart. Loads of space. They're just going to have intermittent traffic, but not the kind that they've just had. So Rart has now got a chance to open the gap out to what it was, or at least try to. Now you can see, get an idea of the speed of these cars as they come into the braking zones. Basically tipping 170 into the braking zone for the hairpin. Slowest corner on the track, still at 50 miles an hour. And then you've got this lovely winding section that are great for these prototypes. And we'll see Lennart Rart now try his best to open the gap, but definitely the gap to Lewis Woods has halved to what it was. It was 3 seconds down to a 1.5 seconds right now. So the traffic playing its part in this one. But Rart is still very much in control at this point anyway. Even he's managed to get through the traffic at least unscathed, and we know he's got the pace to keep in front of Lewis Woods for now at the very least. But we'll wait and see what happens at the pit stops, of course. We've seen them go very long last week, and the alternate strategy of going longer and putting less fuel in the car certainly working out the drivers last week. So we're going to see if that's going to come to fruition once again. But basically, after all of that and all the action, the leaders in class have now reverted to what they were. So every driver that was on pole position is still leading this race.
Yeah, the leader's doing a pretty good job. Lennart Rart not extending the gap by too much in that last lap. You can see that gap's pretty much staying the same as we look at the battle for second in class in LMP2 Pro. And actually we just cut back to the battle for second in class in LMP1, and because Brown is under pressure from Faguccio behind, only 4/10 between the two of them, and they are catching up to the battle for the first couple of positions in LMP2 Pro. You can see Karastani just up the road, and he will have two LMP1 drivers deep in a battle trying to get past him very, very shortly.
You can see on the mini map on the right hand side, you can see them starting to catch up right now. So they're right on the tail. You might actually see them flying past on this back straight. The two guys battling for position, Lucky Brown and Flavio Faguccio. Faguccio, has he done it? Yes, he has, but Lucky Brown going to go late on the brakes on the inside line. And if you have the inside there's not a lot you can do for the car on the outside right there as they go past the LMP2s here and try to fight it as Faguccio's trying to find an opportunity. Has got an opportunity, has the inside now for the next corner, but it will turn to the outside line. Lucky Brown hangs on for now. Figuccio going wide, now tries to nip up the inside, can't quite do it, but now he has a run on him as they head into the right-hander. But Lucky Brown is just hanging it on that inside line. If you have the inside line, it's all said and done basically, but Figuccio really piling the pressure on. And Dane, at the same time, draws this 5.7 seconds as Figuccio has to go wide again. He gets right on his bumper, maybe using a bit of boost there to try and keep up with that Porsche. But Drozda is 5.4 seconds up the road all of a sudden. Remember, he was in the middle of this fight not long ago, and suddenly he's 5.5 seconds clear this one. So he's obviously been saving the pace for later. But Lucky Brown struggling at this moment in time, and Figuccio is the man putting the pressure on, but Lucky Brown absorbing the pressure quite well at the moment.
Yeah, he's not making too many mistakes, and if he keeps that up, he will be maintaining second place. No doubt about it. Figuccio all over the back of him throughout the last lap, and didn't seem to flinch at all. Battle for 6th in class in P2 AM though, and it is still Baumeister and Marical going at it. The Cabot and Devotion Sim Racing teams battling it out here.
Yeah, and remember, of course, Marical looped it around in Sunset Bend. So he's trying to recover. He's already had to get past Baumeister once. He's going to go for the inside in Sunset Bend, throws it there, and Baumeister has to go all the way around the outside there. Has to try and keep on there. Marical does get in front, but Baumeister going to get a good run on them out of the exit of Sunset now for the inside for Big Bend here. Turn 1 at Sebring. 382 goes for the inside line, tries to get it, but no. Marical has the overspeed on the outside line and hangs on to the position. Good stuff from Jason Marical right there on a recovery, of course, after that spin in Sunset, but certainly hasn't knocked his confidence taking the speed in there that time. So he hangs on to that position, moves up. But of course, P2 Pro, Jakub Federka is in complete control of this one at the moment of the 2-1-2, 4.4 seconds. He's got over Zeb Toynison, Kalistani and Skorupski. You can see there we've had 4 retirements. Daniel Bucher, Bruno Aguirre, Mark Sweethoff and Brian Cavito all out of the race. Of course, Bucher and Aguirre, who had that big smash. As you can see, Lucky Brown, big hop on the bumps and a collision. In the background, Figuccio collects a P2 in the background. He goes straight into the back of him in the background, and Figuccio has got that all wrong, and he's already apologising in the chat right there. You can see now that was poor old Nathan Healy, the innocent bystander in that one. He moves out of the way for Lucky Brown, and oh dear, I think that might have been a miscommunication. I think Healy might have been actually trying to come into the pit lane, and Figuccio just unsighted, went straight into the back of poor old Nathan, who was struggling around with damage anyway, but now he's going to have more damage in the back of that car. It's right on board with Figuccio as he comes through Sunset. So Lucky Brown goes around the outside. I think Nathan might have been heading into the pit lane, and yeah, nothing really they could do right there. Figuccio couldn't do anything, and neither could Nathan really, as he was trying to get into the pit lane. But Figuccio now will probably have some aero damage and loses time to the battle right there, and he's dropped. You can see nearly back 5 seconds from Lucky Brown all of a sudden, so that's changed the order and spread the field in P1AM. And you can see now there's only 3 cars left running in P1 Pro after Ishmael Cooper and Hugo Valentin DNFing, of course, earlier on. Leonard Roth leads by 2 seconds, and Alex Salmon just 2 seconds back in that one as well, so they're evenly spread. But Alex Salmon right now is doing exactly enough to win the title, and if it finishes the way it finishes right now, then, well, I mean, if Salmon can't actually finish lower than 3rd anyways in class, so he'll get 3rd at the very minimum, and that will be enough to secure himself the title. So all he's got to do is get the car across the line, really.
You'd think so, but he does have
Zabo.
What's happened there? That's an interesting place to go off. I wonder if there's been contact, or if he's just misjudged the exit. No contact in sight. So what's happened here? Hasn't gone over all the bumps, just unsettled the car a bit, and ran slightly wide, and just you can see the rear left tyre just touching the grass, and unsettled the car enough to send the car almost fully around, but he managed to hold on to it just about. And Figuccio, you can see there, taking the fast repair.
Yep, having to take it for the damage on the front end, and he will unfortunately lose the position now. Well, he was fighting for position, but that's not going to happen right now. It promotes Sivizaba, who we just saw spinning. He's now up to 3rd in class, so he's hanging on to that one. This battle's still going on now between Kalistani and Toynison for second in P2 Pro. Still lapping around, still going for it, still very close together, these two. They've got about 3 seconds back to Skarupski, and Neumann is a further 3 seconds back from that one. And Tim Perry is actually nearly at the head of that, nearly mixing it up in the middle of these guys as well, so doing an excellent job fighting the P2 Pro field as well. Jackson Bell's also in there, as is Kevin Kittleman. So this battle continues to rage on. Alex Salmon, personal best on that previous time, a tiny bit faster than Lewis Woods, but they're very, very evenly matched, those two. So there's not going to be much gains as they start to catch traffic once again. Matteo Calstani and Seb Toynison very, very close on track, very evenly matched on pace at the moment in time. As you can see now, the sun very much setting around here. As get that, how beautiful does that sunset look out the front there, down towards Sunset. There's a reason it's called Sunset Bend, and it looks even better in these conditions as they head into Sunset Bend. And as well, that would be getting in your eyes, but no issues, of course, in sim racing. You don't get blinded quite as much as you would in real life. But you can see Calistani. You can see a little bit of defensive driving by Seb Toynison there. He knows the slipstream is in effect right there, and trying to get himself into second in class. But Jakub Viderka is just driving away at the front right now. Personal best right that time for Calistani in the slipstream, and he's trying his best to chase after Tim Perry as well, just at the fastest lap in class on that lap by as well. So sitting pretty comfortably in the lead of that class as well. But Calistani getting closer and closer each time now. Maybe thinking about moving to the hairpin. Has a look on the inside, but again, not quite close enough to go for it on the brakes right there. And you've got to be pretty committed on the brakes right here with the bumps as well, because it does unsettle the car in the braking, causing it to lock up and can cause a big old smash. Calistani, as he go for it now, big lunge up the inside of Toynison, and they make contact, and Toynison hangs onto it with a big slide. Calistani does get in front, but big lunge from him right there. But Toynison did very well to hang on to that car in the slow speed corner, but he'll certainly have his own revenge, I'm sure, as we'll look at that again, Dane.
Yeah, massive send on the grass as well. Just about enough space given, but he just runs slightly deep into the corner and the contact is made. But luckily the Toynison was able to hold on to it and didn't lose too much time, but you can see, not happy with it, flashing the headlights down straight.
Yep, universal sign of anger in endurance racing, the flash of the lights, as we see now. This battle is suddenly close up. Lewis Woods losing chunks of time. Alex Salmon now right with him on track right now, so the traffic playing its part, and it's now lost, of course, him a second to Lennart Rart. So Alex Salmon on the back of his championship rival, of course. Lewis Woods is the only man who can take the championship off of Alex Salmon. Of course, Lennart Rart with an outside chance as well, but where Alex Salmon is running, it's pretty much out of the question really for Lennart Rart if Alex Salmon manages to get through here as well. But of course, we have to wait for stewards' inquiries and all of that stuff after the race, of course, as they head into Sunset Bend once again. But all of a sudden, the battle for second is very much on between these two, and a big old bump on the inside there of Sunset Bend. It's really nasty. But once again, we get to see these guys fighting. It's always great between Lewis Woods and Alex Salmon. They can never really get rid of each other, Dane.
Yeah, no, they can't almost contact between the drivers that we just cut off the screen there. But yeah, Woods and Salmon, name a more iconic duo in the ARL Prototypes Championship than Woods and Salmon. I don't think you can really. But yeah, they've been at it the entire season long, and yeah, so it looks like we're going to get another treat again as we're approaching halfway, and that is Neumann.
Yeah, just I think having a quick excursion off onto the grass. Have a quick look here, and yeah, just seems to do it on his own, but gets back going. Thankfully, but just loses the 1 or 2 spots there for our cages. Neumann frantically getting on the brakes, and there's just no stopping it on the grass, but that has to very gingerly bring it back onto the circuit. Right there, there's our cages Neumann, but no harm done. Managed to keep it out of the barrier, that's the important thing, and it gets back underway again. I was actually about to make a suggestion for Lewis Woods and Alex Salmon, if they're up for it, of course, making a team for next season and calling it Wood-Fired Salmon Racing. That'd be great, wouldn't it? Wood-fired salmon racing, get it done, lads. As we go back to...
Oh dear, we've lost Jack. And he's back.
Marco is, yeah, Marco kicked me for that joke, so thank you very much, Marco. I think I was in mid-sentence as well, so appreciate that. We go back to the battle between these two. Salmon battling it out right there, and you can see the flashing lights for Alex Salmon trying to let him know that he's very much coming for him, as Mateusz Drozda taking the pit stop. So the first pit stop that we've had for the P1s. And from the lead, interesting enough, so Loki Brown, he'll obviously stay out and try and do an overcut here. We'll see if that works for him. But Mateusz Drozda taking the early stop in pit lane, as now more traffic for these guys coming through the middle sector. Not too shabby there. Manages to get through. Lewis Woods does get through at least. Alex Salmon might have to wait a little bit. He does get caught up a little bit, and it opens the gap out to just over a second now. For himself, so that they're going to be pretty much together for the rest of the race. 30 minutes in, so we're in the pit stop phase. Drozda on his way out of the pit lane now, so Loki Brown's going to be on the push lap now to try and see if he can maybe gain some time on Drozda. You can see he's ended up about 30 seconds behind him now. So we'll wait and see what happens there. No sign of the P1 pros coming in just yet, as more traffic negotiating for Lewis Woods and Alex Salmon. And no issues for him there as well. I have to say, the P2 AMs are really putting on a good show today. They're actually now, you can see Tim Perry, he's there leading the class, but he's actually now 5th overall in the P2 class as well. Jackson Bell 7th overall as he pits. But the P2 AMs are certainly making a case as to why they should be promoted up to pro for the next championship.
Yeah, that's I actually remember talking to Kev Copeland, and he won the Apex Racing League GT Championship, AM Championship, and then he went and signed up for the next season. He got stuck up into pro, and he wasn't very happy about that. He's actually not done too badly in that, but he also signed up for the Porsche Cup Championship and won the AM Championship there too. And he basically had to beg Sam Fitzpatrick not to put him back up into the pro category for the second season of that. And so yeah, it's definitely something that does happen quite often with drivers that outperform their class. I can't say that from personal experience though, because it's never happened for me. I'm always in the midfield or near the bottom of the class they put me in. They normally put me in the AM class, and that's normally where I belong.
So you can just see Lucky Brown just took his pit stop but was unable to jump Mateusz Drozda, so that remains as is. Daniel Sivizabo now leads his class. Of course, he had a little excursion earlier on, but he's yet to make his scheduled pit stop, so he's going to be heading in, I assume, pretty shortly. But Drozda's still in front of everybody. You can see Sivizabo was the only one to have made a stop. And you remember Iamantis pitted earlier because he had the damage, so he's probably going to end up making another stop for fuel at some point, unless he's putting in enough fuel to go to the end. But none of the pro guys have stopped yet. Most of the P1 AM guys have, and none of the LMP2s, apart from a couple, have stopped. And none of the top 4 have stopped yet. Actually, none of the top 6 have stopped in class right there, and none of the P2 AMs have stopped yet either. But we're right in that window now for stops. Sivizabo, I would assume, will be coming in pretty shortly, and Leonard Rart and Woods and Salmon will also be heading into pit lane very shortly as it gets even darker here at Sebring, and looking forward to seeing these cars at night as Sabo gets a little bit out of shape going through them. He's carrying on a little bit longer as he comes across the start-finish line, and he wants to lead a little bit longer. But Matteo Calistani, Seb Toyneson, no separating those guys in this battle, and here's Matteo Graziano. Of course, he started at the back, of course, with a qualifying ban. He's trying to get past Kevin Kittleman, not fight for overall position. Well, actually, not fight for in-class position, but for overall, really. So Graziano's just trying to make up more positions on track that he can, and Kittleman just moves out of his way, lets him straight through, so no issues for Matteo Graziano there. But the battle for position that he's trying to get up to is Arcadius Neumann, 6 seconds up the road. And Let's see if he can do the Graciano. Has got some pace in that car, so has managed to get himself through up to 7th in class right now with a pit stop, of course. So he's on a good trajectory right now in this one. So yeah. Yes. Okay, so he actually ended up starting from the pit lane according to Marco Barbonero. So he's actually hasn't stopped yet. That is just because he started from the pit lane. As in comes iRacing Mantis, second stop for him. For fuel, of course, he's running down in 5th in class, and well, he can't drop any lower than that. Of course, he was taken out earlier on through no fault of his own, so he's just trying to get that car across the line, which is the key thing for him. Gap up front starting to come down a little bit each time. Lewis Woods is kind of matching Leonard Rart out front right now. But a man who's kind of cruising around at the moment is Jakob Viderka at the head of the LMP2 Pro field. As is Tim Perry, who's even further in front in class. He's 13 seconds clear of Kevin Kittleman. So P2 guys are kind of cruising around and pretty much just trying to avoid any major instances. One of the, I believe that's Lewis Woods getting past there. I was a little bit close for the P2s there, but Woods gets past Salmon trying to negotiate this at the same time. And it gets caught up again just behind the P2 there. Viderka gets well out of the way. And but that's lost those guys a little bit of time, but they managed to at least negotiate it safely, which is the key thing. So we're heading into these guys going a little bit longer. Actually, the P1 pros, still no sign of them stopping yet. 35 minutes into this race, and Leonard Rart, there he is, still out front. And the gap has opened up to about 3.3 seconds. So. Well, about 2.7 seconds, sorry. It's sitting at about 2.7, 3.3, hanging in there roughly around the same time. So let's see, Loki Brown, has he had a bit of an excursion? Yes, he has. That was well held, Loki Brown, but Flavio Figuccio took full advantage and went straight past him.
Yeah, he'll be saying thank you very much. But he's definitely not just going to give up without a fight. Is Brown still right on the back of it?
P2 pros and P1 P2 AMs also. Tim Perry, Kevin Kittleman from the first two positions in that one are also in. But you can see Viderka, Toynes and Skorupski, they've all pitted, but Kalistani's decided to carry on an extra lap. Sivi Zalba also from the lead of P1 AM, he's now in. Tim Perry, clean stop for him, he's on his way out. And but you can see Maracal has not pitted yet, so he's going to take the lead of that one, as Drozda now retakes the lead in P1 AM after Sivi Zalba's pit stop. And you can see Lucky Brown back in front. Figuccio going to go for the inside line into turn 1. The Audi now sticks up the inside to retakes the spot from Lucky Brown. But look at the switchback maneuver for Lucky Brown. You can see wide for Figuccio, but he manages to hang on to the position. And Lucky Brown has now got to try and get past him once again as the 3 leaders pit in P1 Pros. They've all pitted at the exact same time. No different strategy being put on right there. So now Drozda, Figuccio, Brown is the new top 3 in this one as the Audi boosts away there down the straight. And Figuccio now in a very comfortable place. Sivi Zalba now in 4th, and Kalistani pits from P2 Pro as well, so he is now going to succeed the lead to, of course, the previous leader. So that's not going to be no change for him. So thankfully he's going to retake. You've just seen Zawa's how he had a little bit of an off-track excursion, but managing to carry on. He's 4th in class right now, so he's just got to make sure that he gets across the start finish. Lewis Woods still in the pit lane. Lewis Woods still in the pit lane. It's a problem for Lewis Woods, and that is not good. That pretty much puts him out of contention for the championship. Still in the pit box, and I wonder, is this a hardware issue or is it a pit lane problem for him? And he has a penalty by the looks of it. So Lewis Woods, unfortunately, is still in pit lane. So that is the reason why Lewis Woods is still in the pit lane, and he's having to serve the extra, and that's put Salmon up to second.
Yeah, and, he was speeding on the way and trying to go around the outside of an LMP2, it looks like.
Yeah, unsafe pit entry, I would imagine, for that one. So that would be the reason for that. You have to keep between the line right there, and you can see because he demolished those cones on the way in, that would qualify as an unsafe pit entry for Lewis Woods. That is a mistake from him, trying to get and could be speeding as well to add on top of that as well.
He's only
for
just
Lewis Woods. Yeah, a minute and 11 seconds.
Penalty.
A minute and 11 seconds behind Alex Salmon. That is a monument. It could have been a double whammy for Lewis Woods right there. Unsafe pit entry plus speeding, and that's going to equal a very large penalty. Over a minute spent in the pit, is sat in the pit box, and Lewis Woods ends up now out of contention for the championship. Now Alex Salmon is in front of him, and now Alex Salmon runs second, about 5 seconds behind Lennart Raart. So Lennart Raart very much in control. Lucky Brown stopped and spun and facing the wrong way in the S section, and toes back to pit lane, and that also will put an end to his championship hopes. Lucky Brown ends up facing the wrong way in the S section, and that is unusual for Lucky Brown. So here he goes through turn 1, ends up on the grass, and that's unusual for him. That was, I think that was a secondary incident. Here's the one that we've seen. Lucky Brown, he's heading, so it's the same laps. He runs wide in turn 1, and oh my word!
Oh no, that's not. Oh, that's awful.
Tim Perry, how lucky was he to get out of that one? Lucky Brown, he just took way too much speed going into the left-hander, caught the grass, looped around, and Tim Perry was so lucky to not get taken out in that one. That could have been a very, very large moment in the P2 AM title, and he just got a slight tap in the rear, but escapes to live another day. Lucky Brown has now put an end to his championship hopes with that moment through the S section, and on the same lap, Lewis Woods and Lucky Brown have taken themselves out of contention, really. Mistakes in pit lane and mistakes in the S sections, and all of a sudden Alex Salmon and Mateusz Drozda in position to win the championship in their respective classes.
That was a really, really awful one for Brown, because he just tried to go around the outside, but was trying to leave as much space as possible for Perry, because the line there takes you a little bit into the middle of the circuit in the LMP2, so he was trying to leave enough space to go around the outside of Perry without making contact. Just got a bit wide, and then overcorrected. Basically what happened was he got loose on the grass, started to correct, and then the grass disappears and becomes concrete. And at that point, the car just swung back to the right-hand side and flew him straight into the wall. And yeah, absolutely nothing he could have done about that once the slide started. What's happened to Jussi Bauermeister? Oh, he's just gone straight on. No, he hasn't. He's done some improvised rallycross, and he will be going back. But I believe once you do that, you get a slowdown penalty, which is a bit rubbish. Because you go wide, you lose a lot of time, and then you still get a slowdown penalty afterwards.
Yeah, it's basically adding insult to injury there for him. So he's gonna probably start the slowdown, but he will at least carry on for that one. But here's Lucky Brown. He's a lap down now as a result of retaking that. He's obviously had to go back to pit lane, repaired the car, taken the fast repair, and got back going again. But he just drops to 4th in class right now. Championship rival Mateusz Drozda up in the lead, and nothing really that he can do about that in this one. As see now, David Ward, he's under a bit of pressure from Maciej Mlinek. These guys have both been in the pit lane twice, so they've ended up together on track. 8th in class, this will be 4, and you can see the gaps respectively. It's quite spread out now as a result of all that. You can see Lennart Raart 3.8 at the head of the fields, and Mateusz Drozda 6.9 in front of Flavio Fraguccio. Tim Perry is 15 seconds clear of Kevin Kittelman, and Jakub Viderka 4 seconds in front of Kalistani. But this is a battle on track now. David Ward and Maciej Mlinek trying to gain 8th position in class. Let's see if you can get past David Ward here, fighting in the 269. heading up towards the back straight now, getting nice and close to him, trying to get that slipstream. Already probably thinking about Sunset Bend. It's fully dark here at Sebring right now, if you haven't noticed. And of course we get the lovely onboard shots with all the lovely lighting inside of these cars as well. Flicking back to the right hand side now as they join the back straight away. A little bit of a better exit for David Ward that time. Matchem Linek will have the slipstream towards Sunset Bend. Now does he have a think about a move here? Long run down towards Sunset, getting in the slipstream, lovely run, goes to the inside line for Sunset, late on the brakes, throws it up the inside, and David Ward leaves him room. Matchem Linek gets the run on the inside though, on the power, nice and early, side by side they go, but Ward is still in front as they come down towards turn 1. Linek will get a good run on them as they head in towards Big Bend. Not going to go for a move into there. And David Ward a little bit wide on the way out though as they head towards turn 2 and turn 3, but again not quite close enough to go for that move into that corner. A little bit of a touch of the grass for David Ward that time, but let's see. And again, Linek goes wide onto that gravel, and that gravel has had plenty of cars over it tonight. As we take a 45 minutes gone in this race, 15 minutes left of the season in this one, and we're basically now waiting to crown our champions. And to be fair, they've almost all made it very easy for us, apart from the head of the P1 Pro field, because all the championship leaders are all leading their respective classes apart from P1 Pro.
Yeah, we just need Alex Salmon to do us a favour and catch up to Leonard Rart, give us a good race in the last few minutes of the race like he so often does. And then that might make it a little bit easier there as well. But yeah, 4.5 seconds is the gap between Rart and Salmon. Now I don't think Salmon's going to be able to catch that back up with only 15 minutes to go. But battle for 8th in class for P2 Pro. Ward and Linek still very much on here, 0.2 of a second. Are we going to see Linek try it down the inside again? Ward goes the defensive line and actually takes the inside. I would have taken the outside for this corner, but we'll have to wait and see as Linek round the outside and gets the better run. Yeah, that's a mistake from Ward there, letting Linek have the outside, because the outside's quite a lot faster, because you can carry so much more speed around there. It's also a little bit less bumpy.
Yeah, because it's so wide as well. He can run very, very wide out onto right over the white lines through Sunset Bend. So Ward taking the shallower line, leaving so much room for Linek to just drive it all the way around the outside of Sunset Bend. So moves up into 8th in class right now for Matchem Linek, and doesn't look like he's going to be able to gain any more positions because it's 30 seconds up to the next car. Actually, nearly a minute up to the next car. Excuse me. Matteo Graziano is a minute behind, a minute in front of these guys. So that's about the best that Linek can hope for today after taking those 2 pit stops. But here's a map we haven't seen too much of really. Leonard Rart at the front of the P1 Pro field, 5.4 seconds clear of Alex Salmon, and has been in control since the very start of this race. He's had no real problems. He's had the scare earlier on when we had, of course, he lost that big chunk of time in the traffic, but is negotiating it much better now, more spread out, which is helping him out. Flash the lights as they head down towards turn 1 under the lights at Sebring. And Leonard Rart trying to round off a ARL Prototypes campaign that he'll probably think should have been much more, of course. He's 3rd in the championship, but remember that those early rounds where he had those connection problems, of course, he qualified on pole for the first round of the championship, but ended up disconnecting. And then round 2 as well had the same problem. So it's not been a campaign that Leonard Rart can. He'll obviously say it could have been much more, but this late return to form has really sealed the deal as to why he should be in the pro class, of course. But he'll be thinking he should have been really at the head of the championship fight in this one. He probably should have been in the lead after of course, those missing results early on could have really hotted this championship up. But either way, Leonard Rart has put on a good end to this season and is on course to try and take his 3rd victory in the championship.
Yeah, he's got quite a bit of a gap and yeah, that gap seems to be increasing all the time. Only 10 minutes left, and then he does look like under the lights at Sebring. There are very few lights at Sebring. Looks like he might be the one to cross the massive checkered flag stripe on the track. There it is, as he crosses to start yet another lap. Lap 30 was the last one. He's starting lap 31. There is a car facing the wrong direction. Oh no, it's not.
I think that might have been just Nathan Healy having a bit of a lock-up, taken to the escape road, but gets back going again. So Nathan Healy's been in the wars today, hasn't he? Of course, involved with that incident with Flavio Ferguccio in Sunset Bend, and continues to have a bad day at the office, really. Nathan Healy, but just escapes that one at least. David Ward now, he's fallen back, and here's Jason Marical, who's in the P2 AM category. He's just trying to make up some track position, not for position in class, but certainly some overall position. David Ward very wide through turn 1, and Marical really closing up to him. As coming to the braking zone for turn 3. It's right on his tail. I wonder, is Ward maybe carrying some damage, because the car just seems to be understeering quite nastily in some of the fastest corners, but seems to be struggling, as there goes one of the P1s, has to nearly force his way past David Ward as they come into the braking zone, but does get through unscathed, thankfully. Bit of a hop over the grass for Marical there. Here is where everybody is on class. That was actually your P1 AM leader. That was Mateusz Drozda getting past there. He's 7.6 seconds clear of his nearest rival. Pretty comfortable, just trying to negotiate the traffic as best he can. And here is Tim Perry, who is leading the P2 AM category, on course to take the championship. And this is probably one of the more dominant drives I've seen from Tim, because look at that gap, nearly 16 seconds clear of Kevin Kittleman. Quite something. Great drive so far.
Yeah, huge gap for Perry out in front, and yeah, we're not really seeing that. LMP2 normally very competitive up at the front, but Perry walking away with things here. We're getting a replay now. Sivisava, what has happened to the driver of the 116 machine? Oh, touches the grass, almost goes straight on, I think. That might have been the same corner. Yes, it was. That's the same corner that Ismail Yakubu locked up on lap 1 and got sent straight into the wall, so he's done well to collect things there.
Yep, he's certainly not had an easy night tonight, Daniel Sivisabo, but carries on nonetheless. But P2 AM, here's your rundown. Tim Perry leads this one, Kevin Kittleman in second, Jackson Bell runs third, Jason Marical and Shane Dunn in the top 5. But you can see how spread out it is. Marcel Leclerc, it's Jones, Baumeister, Collignon, Epperingham and Healy who are still running. Michael Steele is in the pit lane at the moment, and you can see Moore and Edwards out of this race early on. P2 Pro rundown, Jakub Widerka leads by 5.3 seconds over Matteo Calistani, Zeb Teunissen, Christoph Skorupski, James Holman. Then we have a battle on track at the same time here, Arcadius Neumann, and you can see Graziano has caught up to him now for that 6th spot, so we'll see if Neumann can try and keep him behind here. But Graziano has been charging through after starting from the pit lane, trying to get another position to add to his plate. Leineck obviously runs 8th, then David Ward and Luke Pennington, Daniel Bucher, Bruno Greer, Mark Sweethoff and Danny Cavito. There it goes, Graziano with the move up the inside of Neumann, coming through turn 1. They make a little bit of contact, a little flash of lights from Neumann. He's not happy with that move, but Graziano gets the position nonetheless.
Yeah, really assertive move there from Graziano, really sending it hard up the inside, and it's paid off for him with just 6.5 minutes left.
Absolutely. P1 AM, sorry. Mateusz Drozda leads by nearly 10 seconds over Flavio Ferguccio. Daniel Sivisabo in 3rd. Loki Brown running in 4th, of course, after his earlier mistake. And Arias Imantis is in 5th place. He's actually not out on the track at the moment, but he is still classified. Only 3 left in P1 Pro. Leonard Raart leads by 6.9 seconds over Alex Salmon. and Lewis Woods, after that double whammy penalty, runs in third. Ishmael Kubu, Hugo Valentin out on lap 1, of course, courtesy of separate incidents in this one. But only just under 6 minutes remain in this race. 6 minutes left of the season. Now you can see David Ward. I think he was obviously just overtaken by Jason Mariocal. Of course, that's not for position. But Ward is trying to come back at him here. Of course, they're not, as I mentioned, they're not fighting for in-class position, just overall position mostly at this point. One of the LMP1s is coming up to them. I think that is going to be, oh, it's actually one of the P1AMs, I think, coming up to the back of them there as they file their way through. So I think that is actually Flavio Faguccio, I believe, trying to get through. Indeed it is, as he goes through in his Audi and negotiates those cars safely. No, it's actually Lewis Woods, sorry, mixed up the Audis. Lewis Woods making his way through safely and gets through to carry on. He's secure himself in third anyway, but he's 1:12 off the back of Alex Salmon, which is a massive gap heading, but no chance of gaining that time back with just 5 minutes left in this race. So we will be wrapping up in a couple of laps time. So, and we will crown our champions, and we will obviously be looking forward to see. And there's been a change for the lead in P2 Pro all of a sudden. Matteo Calistani leads. Viderka's made a mistake and he's off the road into the wall. Has there been contact with another car? Jakub Viderka has got damage late on in this race.
That's the 382. Just trying to see on the timer screen, who is the 382? It's Jus Baumeister. Are they stuck together? No, they're not. Oh!
Oh dear. And Jakub Viderka ends up with rear suspension damage late on in this race. And oh wow. That is late drama in this one. They both end up connected together. And that's unusual. And Jakub Viderka has got to limp back to pit lane. And that is not good at all for him, and especially since he's leading the title fight. I think it depends if he's got a fast repair left, but so. Yeah, he is. He's on his way out now. So Jakub Viderka on his way out, but his championship rival is that man right there, Maciej Mlinek, but he should still come out in front of him. But that is not what he needed. Maciej Mlinek almost. Seeing his hopes come to effect right there, but Jakub Viderka, he comes out in 7th, which should still be enough. But that was such a strange incident, right there, just coming together, and the car ending up on top of him, and ending up with the rear suspension damage at the end. But that is very, very late drama, and suddenly you have Matteo Calistani gifted the race lead in the dying 5 minutes of the race, and trying to just get it now to the end, trying to get it to the end. But Viderka taken for a wild ride across the grass on top of another car, and very, very lucky that he got away with keeping in front right there, well, avoiding major damage, getting caught up in the incident as much as he did. Obviously he made contact, but had to avoid the tyre wall at the same time. But this is not over, because Zeb Toyneson is only 1.3 seconds behind him, and if that damage is severe enough, Zeb Toyneson could maybe steal this late on in this race. You can see he's gained nearly 6 seconds on him, now 0.3 of a second in favour of Calistani in this late dying moment of the race. But I think Jakub Viderka will be very thankful that he had a fast repair available to him there, because if he hadn't, that could have been very, very detrimental to his championship. Of course, he's got a big gap anyway, but still, he's had the win taken off him. And as a result of that, of course, Tim Perry, he runs 4th overall in class right now, as a 4th overall on track in the P2 class. So really great stuff. He's been keeping his nose clean of trouble. He's got Matteo Graziano behind him. He's trying to get past, but Graziano nearly goes into the back of him, and the P1s are trying to get through at the same time, which is, of course, that's Mateusz Drozda who's leading his respective class. White flag in the air, white flag on the season, as Rart sets the fastest lap of the race as he comes across the start-finish line for the final time. But Graziano, he needs to get past Tim Perry very carefully here, because Kittleman sits second and he'll pick up any pieces should there be the instance between those two. Here's Graziano, there's Tim Perry in front. Now what does he do here? He's got to be very sensible here. He's trying to keep on the brakes as they head into the right-hander. He doesn't really need to get past, gets very close to the back of him as they head through the S section. Graziano, of course, trying to make up even more places from where he started as they come down the back straight. I'm sure Tim Perry is watching his mirrors like a hawk right now to make sure that he doesn't end up in a silly collision in these dying few moments. Of course, it'll be the white flag. Graziano throws it up the inside. Tim Perry will take the outside line, which is better. Technically, this is a big moment for Graziano on the power as well as they come through Sunset Bound for the last time. White flag in the air for the P2s now as they head round Sebring for the final time. They head round to the last lap of the season. Whoa, big tap of the wall from Graziano as he comes into turn one. That may have damaged the car a little bit, but really, he hangs on for dear life, and he's lucky that he got away with that. But James Holman now, right in the fight for fourth place. He's on his tail right now, and Arcadius Neumann right in there too. But here comes Lennart Rart, what could have been in this season for him, as he heads through Sunset Bend for the last time. Utter domination for the German, and he will come through Sunset. Checkered flag in sight. Lennart Rart wins the last round of the season in the ARL Prototypes Championship, and he takes the overall win as well. And you can see now Graziano has lost the position to Holman. Fourth place for Holman, Graziano fifth, and Neumann right behind him. Alex Salmon second. That should be the championship for Alex Salmon, who takes the P1 Pro Championship, provisionally speaking, as we now wait for these guys to fight it out to the end right now. Holman, Graziano and Neumann, who fight for fourth in class at the very end. James Holman, who was kept his nose clean of tonight as well. But here comes Drozda, Mateusz Drozda, P1 AM leader, and Matteo Calistani. He'll be very surprised that he's suddenly ended up in the lead, courtesy of Viderka's error, of his crash, sorry. But here comes Matteo Calistani, an inaugural win in the last round of the season. Matteo Calistani wins the P2 Pro class here in Sebring. Seb Toyneson behind him. Mateusz Drozda wins the P1 AM class and should take the championship as well. At the same time, possibly a late overtake in the background, but now Tim Perry, domination in the P2 AM class. He wins his class and wins the championship in the P2 AM class as well. Well done to him. Graziano fifth and survives. Neumann in sixth in class. Jakub Viderka limps across the line for seventh, and he should be the P2 Pro champion, provisionally speaking. He manages to survive in seventh. Kevin Kittleman will finish second in class. Jackson Bell on the podium in P2 AM. But that was not the drama that we thought would be happening in the dying few minutes. Maciej Malinek will cross the line for eighth behind Jakub Viderka. But we have our provisional champions in this one. But Lennart Rart lights the flag victory in P1 Pro. And Jakub Viderka losing the lead in the last few minutes, and Matteo Calistani picking up an inaugural win at the very last round of the season. Here's your results.
Yep, and in LMP1 Pro, Lennart Rart, of course, taking the win, dominant from the German then. Alex Salmon in second, Lewis Woods in third, and then the two DNFs in Ishmael Yakubu and Hugo Valentin in fourth and fifth, but they won't be scoring any points from that round. And then in P1 AM, Mateusz Drozda taking the win, and Flavio Figuccio in second, Sibi Savo in third, Lucky Brown in fourth, and Arias Yamantis finishing 9 laps down. Won't score any points from that. Not the best way to end the season, unfortunately.
P2 Pro then. Matteo Calistani winning by 2.1 seconds. Unexpectedly for him, with a first win for him. Zeb Toileson second. Krzysztof Skorupski getting on the podium as well. James Holman making the move on the last lap to get past Matteo Graziano. He finishes fourth. Graziano fifth. Arkadiusz Neumann, Jakub Viderka losing the win on the final second to last lap. And then it's Maciej Malinek and David Ward, Luke Pennington, Bruno Aguirre non-finish, Daniel Bucher non-finish. Of course, they ended up in a collision together. Mark Sweethoff and Brian Cavito in 14th in the P2 Pro class. And finally, of course, the P2 AM class. It's pretty clear cut who took that win in that one. Of course, Tim Perry by nearly 18 seconds taking the win in that one ahead of Kevin Kittleman and Jackson Bell on the podium in that class as well. So here is the official results. We have a look. Tim Perry by 19.8 seconds in the end over Kevin Kittleman. Jackson Bell in third, Jason Maracal and Shane Dunn, Marcel Leclerc, Craig Jones, Charles Collignon, Jas Baumeister, Ryan Eppringham and Nathan Healy, Michael Seal a non-finish, Corey Edwards and Alex Moore a non-finish in the P2 AM class as well. I hope you guys all saw that in the background as well, the lovely formation we got from the LMP2 guys as well, but they couldn't exactly fit everyone across. They were trying to go nearly 5-6 wide, but it don't quite fit down this straight here at Sebring. But hopefully we'll get to hear from one or two of our drivers. I'm sure we'll have some. We have two drivers standing by, Jas Baumeister and Tim Perry, but as well as Alex Salmon standing by in the interview waiting box. Let's have a chat with Alex Salmon first, our P1 Pro, second place man and provisional champion. Let's bring him in. Alex, welcome in once again. Second place for yourself today, and pending any inquiries or whatever, you should be crowned the champion of the Aerial Prototypes P1 Pro. We'll wait for the points, of course, but yeah, talk us through that race from your perspective.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, first of all, massive thank you to everyone that's helped me this week. It's been not the easiest of off weeks, and things off track going on in the community, so it's nice to have some support behind me, which has been awesome. Yeah, the race was pretty dull from my perspective, really. I mean, I couldn't really get myself up to the back of Lewis. It seemed that whenever I got there, it'd be kind of either traffic would get in the way or I just wouldn't have the boost to get there. But yeah, I think he had an issue in the pits, and then that put me P2, and at that point I kind of knew that I was comfortable for the championship, so I think it was just coast to the end really, and yeah, let Leonard do his thing up the front.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's been an eventful season, of course, for yourself. How have you enjoyed the racing overall? Has it been a good? Obviously, you've taken the championship, but did you come into this championship expecting to win, or is this a total surprise?
Yeah, honestly, I thought there'd be a couple good finishes on the cards, podiums, maybe the odd win. I didn't think I'd be winning the championship. RLR bring a really strong team whenever they come out. They have 4 cars out there that all could have won the championship. And yeah, I have a lot of respect for those guys. We have our disagreements, but yeah, I have a lot of respect for their drivers, and it's been a really good season of battling. There's not many people that you can do a lap of Spa side by side with, or a lap of Road America side by side with. So it's really incredible, and yeah, it just shows that LMP1s can race and race really well.
Absolutely. Well, you've certainly upset the RLR established order in the LMP1 that's basically made up of most of them, but you certainly put OCM at the top. So Alex, of course, provisional champion in this one, of course, until we get the official points. But before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to say a quick thank you to?
Yeah, I'd like to send a massive thank you out to Taylor Mills. She was spotting me again for that race. She's done 5 of the 6 rounds, and it's been awesome just having that little bit of reassurance that it's going okay. The OCM guys have been awesome. A lot of our drivers have kind of put their racing on the back seat to help me, which has been great. And yeah, just the LMP1 community as a whole, really. Some guys that really helped me out this week and have kept me sane, which has been really nice. So yeah, thanks all round to everyone, really.
Well, Alex Salmon, the champion of LMP1 Pro, thank you very much for having the chat with us. Congratulations on your second place, and hopefully we'll see you again for another season. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks so much. See you soon.
See you soon. Well, that was Alex Salmon, who sounds very relieved that he's got that car across the line and taken the championship. But a few more guys standing by for yourself, Dane. You have your pick of the bunch.
Well, I think the next person I'm going to go to is Leonard Rott because, of course, he just won the race and a pretty dominating performance from yourself then. You didn't really have too much competition throughout that one.
Yeah, well, I expected a bit more pressure from the Audis, and I think if the traffic at the beginning would have been a bit better for the Audis behind, then you would have seen a nice battle. But because of the traffic, I was able to pull away with the high downforce. Like, I gained 2 seconds on the first lap because I can just push harder, and from then on it was basically just managing the gap. Which was quite interesting because over the last few races, like, I noticed it sparked a controversy. I have like a pedal, like a regen pedal, like they use in Formula E, and it sparked a controversy with it being the reason the car is quick. So today I just completely skipped that, didn't even have activated that system, and well, it showed. It's not bad. It's just I like connecting with the car. The Porsche suits my driving style really, really well, and turning this thing up for qualifying to 11 is just amazing. Just exactly what I drive a simulator for.
Yeah, your qualifying lap was particularly special. I think it was 1.2 seconds quicker. I think Lewis Woods got caught up quite a bit. And eventually, with that pit lane penalty, it was just you and Alex Salmon. You had to maintain that. It was a 7-second gap at that point for the rest of the race.
Yeah, I knew that the Porsche is a bit quicker in clean air, it appeared, and Alex would then gain time in traffic because he makes his time on different parts of the track, where it doesn't get held up as much by traffic as I do. So it was really just managing the gap, and sad to see for Lewis that he had the issue on pit lane. But yeah, sometimes I felt like I had an energy shield around myself because there were a few hairy situations, which I didn't think I would survive. But it all worked out in the end, and I'm fairly happy with it. And there's a nice firework to end the season with.
Yeah, absolutely, and I believe that was your third race win of the season, so a pretty good season for yourself, wrapping up the season. I think you finished second in the points. Actually, I've just been given the points now, before any potential penalties, although I'm pretty sure you're not going to get penalty for anything from this round. You had a very clean race up there, but just looking at the points now, we can see if we can confirm. Yeah, just second in the standings at the end of that, but it must have been a pretty fun season. You had quite a few battles throughout.
Yeah, it was quite fun, and I think especially the qualifying sessions helped me to become a slightly better driver. Like, usually I'm really nervous before qualifying, and this has tapered off over the season a bit, so it actually helped me to be more consistent on qualifying. Really annoying with the disconnect in the first round and then just being taken out twice at Monza. But yeah, like, that, nothing I can do about that. Sometimes the luck just isn't with you, and in that case, one drop week isn't enough to bring me back into the fight. But yeah, I had fun driving the other races, and I think we showed we are no pushovers, neither in LMP1 nor in LMP2. So I'm actually quite happy with the season.
Yeah, it's been a joy to watch, and hopefully you'll be able to join us for a second season, which may or may not be coming fairly soon in the future. Well, Leonard, congrats on the third win of the season, and hopefully it was an enjoyable season for yourself, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for joining us for an interview.
Thank you for having me, and have a nice evening. Bye.
Yeah, you too, Leonard.
So finally then, we have a final driver to have a chat with. It is, of course, now confirmed with official points, or unofficial points, official points, let's say. We have P2AM champion, P2AM winner from tonight, Tim Perry, joins us. Tim, pretty much domination from yourself today, wrapping up the title in pretty much dominant fashion as well. Congratulations, how do you feel?
Yeah, really good actually. It's my first ever kind of sim racing championship in iRacing, so yeah, I'm absolutely over the moon. I mean, although it looks quite dominant, I suppose, like it actually all came down to the last lap. If I'd have crashed off, then Kevin would have inherited the win, and he was on 0x as well, so he would have got the bonus point, and then I think he would have won the championship. So it actually all came down to that final lap in the end.
Absolutely, we saw as well. You had a bit of a scary moment as well with an LMP1, Loki Brown, almost gone into the back here as well. So it was obviously quite eventful as well. But it's been a good season, been a great season for yourself. Obviously, managing to secure the title. How have you enjoyed your season at ARL?
Yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant. You know, it's been really interesting learning the car actually. Got to thank Johan Hart and his data packs with Apex Racing, because they really helped to learn the track, and it's really helped me to learn the car, and I'd have no idea about setups if it wasn't for him. So it's been great actually going through that process and really trying to just extract as much time as I can out the car.
Absolutely, that's the perfect ad, isn't it, for Apex Racing Academy securing the championship with the setup. If you would like to check that out, the links are in the description of this stream, of course. So great ad from Tim there for Johan, who runs does the data packs for the LMP2. But yeah, Tim, obviously great to chat with you as always. Before we let you go to celebrate your win, is there anyone you'd like to say a quick thank you to?
Yeah, obviously big thanks to my team. Cabal, we wrapped up the AM title as well. So Houston, Jonathan did a great job as well, and just a big thanks to you guys for doing great commentary and putting on such a great show.
Thank you very much, Tim. Pleasure having you in. Congratulations on the championship. Celebrated well, and hopefully we'll see you again for another championship.
100%. Thank you very much.
See you later. Tim Perry, our P2AM champion, of course, for this season, but. That, of course, unfortunately, brings us to the end of the championship. It has been a fantastic season to have commentated over, and really competitive racing across the board with these double with these classes. Of course, 4 new champions crowned tonight, and hopefully we'll be back for another season. Very shortly, but many thanks to Dane for joining me in the commentary box, and to Joshua Lee, who joined me for one round as well. But Dane, thank you very much for being alongside me, putting up with me, and for Marco as well, who's worked very hard on the cameras as well. But we hope to see you all again very soon for another ARL Prototypes Championships, and of course to SDK Gaming, of course, many thanks for providing these wonderful graphics. But from all of us here at Apex Racing TV, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you hopefully for a new season very shortly. I've been Jack Cannon, he's been Dane Baird, he's been Marco Barbonero on cameras. We'll see you very soon. Thank you and good night.